Welcome to my channel. As you've known, we'll talk about medical scientists. I just want to share good news with you today. I passed my Mayo Clinic interview for medical scientists. And one of the things that was examined, 6 items you have to be aware of if you're going for Mayo Clinic interview. Adaptability to workplace diversity. Number 1, compliance. Number 2, compliance with laboratory procedure. Number 3, team efforts. Number 4, strategic thinking and decision making. Number 5 is process improvements. And lastly is open communication. These are behavioral questions. Stay with me and I'll elaborate more. Number 1 question says, think of a time when you closely work with somebody who has a different perspective, background, style than you, and tell us what you did to work effectively without, despite all the difference. I told them of the time I worked with one of my colleagues who was a young graduate. At the end of the shift, we usually have some puzzles of problem. So at the time I called him to discuss how we can work and then avoid, he was big on turnaround time while I was big on quality. And while we were discussing, he told me that he doesn't like the way I work so slowly. I accepted his observation and promised that I would work on myself to be faster and to increase my speed. And I pointed out to him that quality is very important. The reason why we get puzzled at the end of each is because of the mistakes of not checking. He took on board my observation and promised that he will begin to check more often than he does. And at the end of it, we finally arrived at the end of each shift, we meet the turnaround time. At the same time, we don't have error again because he took on the quality. The workplace is becoming more diverse, and the interviewer wants to know how you can adapt with other people working with you and how you can change. So people are setting their ways. So give them what they want. Thank you. Number two question says, in laboratory, it is important to follow procedure very closely. Describe a time, laboratory experience, where you have illustrated your commitment to this. Simply, a time that came to mind was when I was in the blood bank and I rejected a pre-transfusion sample because the physician did not sign the declaration form. And the physician was a senior physician. He requested I send the form back to him. And I told him no, because the laboratory has zero tolerance to any sample or form that does not meet the criteria for transfusion. The sample, rejected sample, and the form has to stay in the lab. It's not allowed to be sent out. So I requested the clinician to send me a fresh form and a fresh sample. While he was not happy with me, I adhere strictly to laboratory procedure. And that's what the interviewer wants to know. They ask for more clarification because some of them don't have transfusion background, and I gave them clarification. So the procedure that you have done in the lab and you're comfortable with, use it as a behavioral. Tell them how you start, what you did, and the outcome. Number 3 question says, what does teamwork mean to you? Walk us through a situation that demonstrates this and what you learned from it. And for me, I define teamwork as a coordinated group working together, cooperating and collaborating to achieve organizational goal. And it's the division of responsibility under a shared objective. Team is as the team's strength lies in its weakest link. I particularly remember one of the public laboratory where I worked with my team of scientists, and we were working on increasing the lab productivity. At one of the meetings, we were brainstorming on how to improve, the personnel aspect. And 4 of my colleagues opened up that they were struggling with night shifts. Usually we do 3 nights, per person in a month. And here is 4 people saying that they cannot cope, they are not doing well with night. One just got married, one is a nursing mother, one just got to school, and the last one said, I don't function well at night. I saw this as a problem. I don't have problem with doing night, so I put up my hand to do 2 nights in a month, 2 weeks of night in a month, and 2 weeks of off. Surprisingly, that changed the dynamic of the laboratory. It brought out the best in everyone. And it reduced the number of absenteeism, lack of motivation, laissez-faire attitude. And I learned from this that, a team can do great things together by mutually supporting one another, cooperating instead of competing, playing to individual strength and having an open communication. Because if my colleague can open up about their struggle, we still continue the way we were. And this brought about 25% improving proficiency. And this is how I answered this question, and the interview was very satisfying with it. So what you need to do is think of a time when you play, team player, and you brought, positive change into your group. Thank you. Let's move to number 4. Number 4 question. There are often many workable solutions to a single problem. Describe a time when you demonstrated, developing alternative course of action using laboratory experience. This one, I know we were talking about strategic thinking and decision making. And the time that came to mind was when I was working in one of the laboratory by myself during the night shift. And as soon as I put apart the biochemistry analyzer for maintenance work, I got a call, and the hospital said there was a massive accident. I need to activate the massive transmission protocol. As soon as I was thinking what to do with the machine, I got another call from a physician about an overdose, paracetamol overdose, and the physician informed me that it needs the result as soon as possible because the patient is in a critical condition. I got another message from ICU, an urgent sample again. I knew this night is not the night for routine work or checklist. So I calmed down, assessed the situation, and I moved to activate the massive transfusion protocol, which is one of the most critical, is the most critical of the task. As soon as all the material were gone, I went back to reprioritize quarterly maintenance. I decided not to do quarterly maintenance that night. So what I did is to couple back the machine and then run the biochemistry paracetamol overdose. The result was critical. I phoned it through to the physician, and I went back to do the ICU urgent sample. And by the time I finished, the nurses were agitating. It was almost, like 4 a.m. and they have not seen the routine sample. I called them to inform them there's been a lot of crisis in the hospital and that I will process the sample. I managed the situation so well that my manager commended me the second day when they told him how I handled every situation. So what the interviewer are looking for? How should you make decision, thinking on your feet, strategizing and prioritizing? And with this my answer, they were very happy. They didn't even ask for clarification. Number 5. So describe a situation in which you independently improve upon the quality of your work, process, product or services, and how did you recognize the need for improvement in the first instance? What the interviewer wants to know is, do you think about, as you walk in, how you can improve? And what I just answered then is about a time I remember when I was in one of the reference laboratory. I was working on norovirus, and I know it's for gastro outbreak, but we don't get the result out until Thursday. And I thought of what to do, and spoke to my senior scientist about it, and they told me it's going to take more, but it doesn't mind if I want to look into it. I look into it, and I realized the PCR steps we do it within 2 days. And when I studied the analyzer, I realized that we can put it overnight instead of doing it 2 whole day. Since we don't need to do anything about it, I tried it, it worked, and reduced the turnaround time from, Thursday to Wednesday. So I discussed with my scientists. They tried it again, and they developed a process protocol for us to, follow after doing all the validation and necessary things. I told the interviewer this one, and they just wanted to know how they wrote the SOP for the procedure. And I told them that it's the senior scientist that did that. So think about, it doesn't have to be something elaborate like my own. Just think about how you improve, your work, maybe your documentation and everything. Just say something, because it's all about discussion. Number 6 question. Tell us about the situation where you responded constructively to a different opinion. What did you say? This question is examining your open communication, not your diverse, different opinion. So what I told them is that I remember a time when I was working as senior project lead in COVID testing of Victoria Department of Health. We need to expand a testing site, and the contractor has informed us that he cannot work after hours as we speculated or demanded. Right? We'll get another contractor. But when we got a meeting, I made them realize that this site is very peculiar, and the contractor that did the work understand the peculiarity of the site. Why not let us allowing to own the risk, develop a risk management where we can mitigate and avert the risk. And that is what we actually did. And there was no catastrophe. And they nodded their head, just simple like that. So just think of a time when you communicated your difference. It's not that you have an opinion and you refuse to say it and say, okay, that's their problem, since they have made a decision. How sincere were you in expressing your own different opinion?